Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another Industry Insider podcast here on the EKN Radio Network, episode number 17. It is January the 23rd, 2019. The new season, of course, off and running. Events already taking place in the southern states, in Texas, in Florida, in California. Yeah, the new 2019 season is underway. Cool guy to talk to here for this edition of the Industry Insider. First time we've had him on the EKN Radio Network. Today, my guest, Joe Janowski, the National Director of Competition for Superkarts USA, and also the new Regional Director of the brand new Great Lakes Pro Kart Challenge Regional Series, of course, under the Superkarts USA banner, which will be running this year in Indiana, Illinois, and Wisconsin. Joe, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it, taking some time out of your day to do a podcast with us here on EKN.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Happy to be here.
Let's do a bit of origin story first. We like to do this because, as you know, Joe, being in the karting insurance business and the motorsports insurance business, the community in karting, a good percentage of it turns over every 3 to 5 years. So there are people that are listening here on the EKN Radio Network or through the podcast on the EKN Radio Network app that might not know a lot about Joe Janowski. They know who you are, Director of Competition for Superkarts USA, but we're talking 25 plus years for you, not only as a driver, but your family was the family that essentially started Superkarts USA back in the mid-90s. Where did you start?
Well, I started racing actually in 1980. So I'm 46 now. So we're well into the 30, well over 30 years of active racing. And I probably race. I don't race that much anymore, but I race at least once or twice a year doing something. And I do a lot of iRacing as well. As a matter of fact, like I'm sitting here talking to you. The best place for me to do this was through all my iRacing stuff. So I've got my gaming rig sitting here in front of me and kind of itching to drive a little bit actually all of a sudden.
I bet. That's cool. Now, so let's go back. Obviously, you started karting, started racing early in your career, as you said. Your father, Don Janowski, and your mom, Susan, were essentially the people that picked up the banner called Superkarts USA, a program that kind of originated in Florida, was designed to be something that went all over the country, but just never did that. You, your dad, and your mom ended up having it, and it was the SCUSA Great Lakes Pro Series, I think. Was that the first name, the Pro Series of the program in the mid-90s?
It was the Midwest Pro Tour.
There it is.
And so it actually started with a guy named Ken Getchell in Florida, and Ken had this idea of these shifter karts, and he had this sort of a World of Outlaws kind of view of what these things would be, and that was those things were brand new. I mean, shifters, and we're talking, you first started seeing them around late 80s a few times, guys like Dave Miller. Someday you should grab some of those old DMC photos, right?
No doubt about it.
And all the stuff, right? Kind of a history of where this thing came from. And my dad and I were at a street race called the Elkhart Grand Prix, and this would have been in 92. And guys like Howie Idelson were there with all these shifters, the 125s, and they got wings, and boy, my dad and I just sat there just with our mouths dropped open, and at that point it was, how do we get into that? There really wasn't anywhere to do it. We happened to be doing insurance for this guy in Florida named Ken Getchell, had this Superkarts USA thing, and so my dad started talking to him more about it, and in 1993 we bought a franchise for $500, and that gave us the the Midwest franchise, so to speak, of SCUSA. Soon after that, we started going. I think first race was at Gary Lobaugh's place in Michigan, the original MRP. I think there was 12 guys that showed up, and 8 of them were local guys. And, and it just kind of took off from that very first race. SCUSA, there was always something different with SCUSA. It started that very first race and went from, that to, what it is today, which is kind of mind boggling when you think about it. But that's kind of, it was me and my mom and my dad, and during the week, we all would work on it together. And then, on the weekends I would race, and my dad would sort of be the race director, and my mom would handle all the administrative duties. So probably of like all of us, the single person that really made SCUSA what it was and really made it happen and made it exist is really my mom, Susan.
Yep, you're right. Yep.
So any of you guys that got penalties at the Supernats and came to the penalty booth to complain, she was actually in there working at the Supernats this past year. So which is a real treat to have my mom come out, and she loves to be right in the middle of the action. She doesn't want to sit in registration. She wants to be right where the action's happening. So that was a lot of fun having her out there.
I remember the first time I met your mom and your dad, and the first time I went to a Superkarts USA race, I want to say it was 1997, I think. I just started working for National Kart News, and they brought me out to the Portage Grand Prix.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the race that the Benarskis were involved in. And I remember for me, and I'm sure this term resonates in your mind, I saw these shifter carts, and I'm like, man, like these guys are the outlaws of shifter racing. It was just gripping and ripping it, and it wasn't just Hondas. It was there was Yamahas, there was Suzuki's, right? Yep. It was fun to watch. It was just something different. It's obviously one of the things, I think the real, I'm not trying to think of the word, but that real passion that everybody had, but just there was this thing about shifter kart racing. That's what kind of pushed me forward, obviously, that would eventually lead me to Shifter Kart Illustrated, the magazine that we published, of course, with your motivation early on as well. SCUSA moves through. Jim Murley comes in as well. The Pro Tour, it was you and myself and Jim Murley sitting down in the office in Columbus, Ohio. Came out with the first SCUSA Pro Moto Tour, and the dates and the rule set, and I was trying to sell sponsorship, and all that happened in the late 90s. And of course, as you know, just that big explosion from about 98 to 2005, whatever it was, when shifter kart racing went absolutely crazy. It was new. Every Road and Track, Car and Driver, Motor Trend all would come out and do, test days and report on this phenomenon called shifter kart racing that really did, I think, inject a lot of excitement into national level racing at that time.
Yeah, man, what a cool time to be part of the sport, and not just from, the SCUSA side, but even just as a driver, the talent that was around those days in those karts, and those things were beasts too. I mean, they were not smooth and easy to drive. I mean, you really had to, you had to be, I'm going to use a dirt term here, but you really had to be up on the wheel. And just all the cool stuff that would happen. I remember some of those early days, like when we were over at Jim's house, sitting in the basement, and it'd be like, it seemed like everything would start off with, wouldn't it be cool if, wouldn't it be cool if we could do this? And the cool part was we could do it. There wasn't anybody to tell us, no, you can't do it. And so the funny thing is that the model of the modern national series really was created by 3 or 4 of us there sitting in the basement riffing on ideas, and the things that people come to take it, for granted now, that was all created. That was all new. It didn't used to work that way. And so, it's always been the fun part of SCUSA, right? There is no rule book. It always tends to be, the progressive, kind of like the redhead stepchild, even though it's been around for like 25-ish, whatever, how many years it's been around, but it's always had that moniker of kind of being the wild child of karting sanctioning or karting event production.
Well, I remember the T-shirt that Murley used to love to push out there, and it was the whole SCUSA thing at the SCUSA Ain't Your Daddy's Go-Kart Club.
Yeah,
that was the whole line, right? Or something different.
I think we need to bring that thing back because it was true then, and it's true now, and that's why it's so fun to be involved in it. Although the SCUSA today is a lot different than the SCUSA of many years past, but that DNA is still in there, right? Like that, what makes it tick, still exists, and that's why. It's fun to see, what Tom has done with it over the years. And I know Tom is a polarizing figure and whatnot, but the reality of it is that, it really, it grew into yet another cool version of SCUSA. And, and so it's almost like the Phoenix, or like it's like a roach. You just can't kill it, man. It just keeps coming back and coming back.
Joe, you bring up the DNA, and that was another, term, like the catchphrase that Jim Murley used to use. And I think one of the reasons why that's kind of been the continuing thought process, or the continuing kind of culture throughout all of Superkarts USA's 25 years is because it was that culture, that it ain't your daddy's go-kart club, that kind of outlaw culture that really drew Tom Kutcher into it. because
Sure.
some
Yeah.
people know, some people don't know that Tom came in right around the time when the Pro Moto Tour exploded. His team won Team of the Year in 2002, but he was there driving in the G1 category, which was the category for drivers 30 years of age and older, and that was his thing. It was badass 125cc shifter kart racing, and all the guys that were running G1 back in those days, a lot of them weren't the young guns that had become older and wanted to race.
Right.
They were guys that we drew from from other things, from motocross, from whatever it may be. Those are the guys that kind of came in and became the G1 stars. Now, S4 and the master stuff we have now, it's more these guys that were stars when they were 13 to 20 and then kind of held out until they were 30 to come and run in the masters category. So the DNA continues, which is exciting. And this is where I want to go now, because I think the first thing and foremost that I want to talk about in this edition of the Industry Insider is the return of the Great Lakes Pro Kart Challenge, which is essentially, as you said, the Midwest Pro Series, Pro Tour that you guys ran. Superkarts USA, obviously, based in Temecula, California. The Pro Kart Challenge in California is their flagship, anywhere from 120 to 180 to 200 entries at a time. It's a strong program. Texas came out of that. They worked with Mike Rawlson up in the Can-Am Karting Challenge in the Pacific Northwest. This move to Florida obviously is key to expanding Superkarts US outwards. But you've had the conversations with people. I've had conversations with people, and I know that Tom has, of course, that there are people on the East Coast that want the SCUSA brand. They want to be, if they're going to run SCUSA Pro Tour and they're going to do the Super Nats and Florida Winter Tour, they want to be able to run SCUSA throughout the summer as well. Is that essentially the motivation? Or you can tell me what exactly it was when you said, or Tom and you discussed, hey, we need to get back to the Great Lakes area.
It's almost kind of hard to articulate, and I knew we were going to talk about this. And so I sit there and I think to myself, like, okay, so when Rob asked me that question, how am I going to answer this thing?
Yep.
I think that this is the birthplace of SCUSA. And, a lot of people forget, SCUSA used to have a pretty broad-based regional program.
Most definitely.
And so, it kind of went by the wayside. As kind of SCUSA dipped into that sort of odd situation it ended up in there in 2004 to 2006, and trying to rebuild the thing and sort of kind of get it pointed in a new direction. And I think I've always had that idea of, if I ever did get back involved, I'd really love to see that, because pro tours are going to attract a number of people, but there's a lot of people that simply can't commit the time or the resources to doing that. But the SCUSA product is such a good product, and it always has been, and it keeps getting better. And so, I'd be at various races or people talking around here, going to races like, man, we'd really love to have SCUSA here more. Like, why can't we get this type of quality racing? Not only that, but it's connected to the bigger picture, right? So, the SCUSA Great Lakes guys, we can build that sort of camaraderie across the United States underneath that one banner, which I always thought was really cool. The tracks around here are great. The racers around here are awesome. There's still a lot of people that really want to go out and bang gears. And so, plus the other stuff that SCUSA does now. But really, I think people really just like, the product. They just like SCUSA. And so, I don't know if I just caught in a fit of mental illness or sniffed too many fumes after a race or something like that. But I had this idea, and I even mentioned it to Tom like mid-year last year, and I think he looked at me like, really, you want to get back into that? And it's like, man, I really think it would work well here, and I know there's a lot of arguments out there, and people have talked about there's too much racing in the Midwest. People were saying that in the 80s. There's too much racing here in the Midwest. There's a lot of racing here in the Midwest because there's a lot of great racetracks. There's a lot of good drivers. There's a lot of good teams. And I think we're going to be able to bring in something unique, and we're going to be able to bring something back into this area that's unique. It's a little different than what's going on. And I think, hopefully, I've got a great staff that's already committed. So these people are coming in from either other PKC regions. A lot of our national team are going to be coming into the Great Lakes Pro Kart Challenge because they live around here. So, my marshals are coming in, and my scoring people, and the tire people, and all these things. I just think it's going to be, I think it's just going to be a really, really great series, and we're not trying to overdo it. It's going to be four weekends with 8 rounds of racing. And I really expect it to be, a pretty good series right out of the box. We're not going to have those teething problems that a lot of other series can have. Plus, cool prize packages, that tie in with the Super Nats that's always there that people always get really excited about. But I've had, uh, you know, more response than I anticipated. And so, which is really good, although I've been around a long time. So I realize that, well, not everybody that calls is going to show up or actually commit to doing what they say that they were going to do. But the volume of interest has been really, really good. And so I'm hoping for a really good 2019 to relaunch this thing.
Well, one of the interesting things, Joe, is the simple fact that there's lots of racing going on in that region, but there's not a ton of racing going on in terms of shifter kart racing. Yeah, there's the SIRA program that runs some street races for shifter kart guys, but there's a lot of shifter kart guys that potentially would want to run some more races that just simply aren't there right now. So I think that you're going to, of course, provide an opportunity for the shifter kart racers in that area to come racing. And I'm not surprised if that's some of the feedback that you've got, because there is a need for that within that particular area.
Yeah. So anyway, I agree with you. There's definitely room for shifter kart racing. There really isn't one in the Midwest that's actively doing it, but there's a lot of hot spots, right? There's like KZ guys that are out here, and there's guys that are really trying to do shifter kart racing, and they really don't have a good home for that in this area. So obviously, we're going to be satisfying that market. I have a great lineup of those common, really good shifter classes. We're going to have the 175. We're going to have the KZ. Everybody don't sell off your Hondas because we've got plenty of Honda classes for, S1 is kind of a legacy class, S4 Supermaster. So a lot of good shifter racing. Plus all the other stuff that people have come to know and love through the SCUSA program. So the minis, the micros, the X30s, KA, which I'm really excited about. I think KA is going to be a really, really great engine package, and definitely could be what I call a platform engine package. So the sport can really kind of rally around it, kind of build on it, sort of a modern version of the KT100. But yeah, so definitely looking forward to seeing some shifter racing again here in the Midwest.
Joined right now on episode number 17 of the Industry Insider by Joe Janowski, the regional director of the Great Lakes Pro Kart Challenge, and of course, national director of competition for Superkarts USA. Joe, let's have a quick look at the schedule. You mentioned 4 different race dates, 3 different venues, kicking off in April, the 13th and 14th at Newcastle Motorsports Park. Early June, you're going to go to Norway, Concept Haulers Motor Speedway, up to Road America in late June, and then the very start of August, back to Newcastle ahead of the Summer Nationals. Sounds to be like a pretty good lineup, but when I saw it, Norway's an old school place. The Midwest Pro Tour, like the old school SCUSA, went to Norway quite a bit. And then, of course, up to Road America. I find that really interesting as well. Give me your thoughts.
Well, obviously Newcastle for me is going to be a no-brainer. I live here in Indianapolis. I have a great relationship with the Dismores, Mike Adams that runs the track. They go above and beyond for us every time we go there. And so, when I approached Mike, said, hey, here's what I'm putting together. It wasn't one date, it was 2 dates. He said, man, we really want to support this. We really like what you're doing. And so that was a no-brainer. But hey, I've got 2 more races to do. So how do I start doing this? And I really wanted to make sure that at least one of the races that we had was was one of the tracks that we would have ran back, many, many years ago. Norway concept haulers, but it's always Norway to me.
Yeah.
Norway was my favorite track back in that time period. I love the track. I love the layout. It has that very not modern feel to it, right? But it races really, really well. So it's, when you go to these newer facilities, they all kind of have that feel to them. They're bigger, they're more open, and sometimes they're a little more sweepy. Where I like, I like Norway, man. It's got the bowl, it's got the jump, it's got some good complex turns in it, and I always had a blast racing there. So it was really a good thing when and sometimes you don't know what's going to happen when you call these guys. And I haven't talked to Les up there in quite a while. And so I rang him up and say, here's what I'm doing. And man, he was pretty excited about it, which was good to hear. And then, so then I was, okay, so now I kind of have to fill in the schedule a little bit. And I reached out to Road America, and really didn't know what I was going to get back. And man, they really went above and beyond to get us on the right date, to work with us. I mean, that's going to be the race that's farthest away from us. So in terms of making sure that I know, what's going to be there and how we're going to work it, great staff up there. They were super cool to work with. And so really looking forward to, I think there's a lot of great racers up there too. I mean, so that's the other part. I really wanted to race up there. I won a couple down here, and then we've got Norway. So I think, this first year is going to be some really cool racetracks. I'm really, really excited for it.
I think it's a pretty good layout. You look at the old Superkarts USA regionals, and you mentioned the fact that at one time, SCUSA had a lot of regional programs. There was the Cascade region up at the Pacific Northwest, the Sierra in NorCal. You go down to there was a region in Louisiana, I believe. There was a region up in Minnesota. There was obviously the region over in the New York area. There was just a ton of different regional programs. Colorado.
We even had the Dixie. We even had the Dixie region.
That's right.
Down the southeast, and so. Colorado was one of them too. And so, it's, so, I mean, in a general sense, if you want to talk in kind of an overall sense, I see this continuing, right? The product is good. The classes are good. The officiating is good. The process of producing an event is good, and all the people that are involved in the production of SCUSA events, and there are a lot of people that are involved in it, really produce some good stuff. And so I'm really excited for the next, 3 to 5 years, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's going to be turnkey for you. You're bringing all the right people in. You're just rolling out at a different venue and opening up to what won't be a pro tour. It'll be essentially a regional program, a PKC, with a number of the heavy hitters that you have week in and week out on the pro tour. So, folks, stick with us. We got more to come here. Episode number 17 of the Industry Insider, talking with Joe Janowski. He's going to take off his Great Lakes Pro Kart Challenge Regional Director hat, ask him to slip into the uniform of the SCUSA National Director of Competition. We're going to talk Winter Series. We're going to talk racecraft, and we're going to talk video marshaling system when we get back here on the EKN Radio Network.
This is Brian Jarstcrack, and you're listening to the EKN Radio Network.
From coast to coast, Miami has become the two-cycle engine of choice for American karting. Starting with the air-cooled 60cc Swift engine for micro and mini drivers, and moving through the incredible X30 power plant for junior, senior, and masters, Miami is providing much-needed stability for the sport. In 2018, the new KA100 Rejet engine took the karting community by storm, and it will be a core class on the SCUSA Winter Series and Pro Tour, as well as the United States Pro Kart Series, Route 66 Sprint Series, and the WKA Manufacturers Cup programs. Watch for more regions, series, and events to get on board with the new Miami formula. This year, Miami USA is debuting the new SSE 175cc shifter engine, which will be the foundation of Superkarts USA gearbox competition for the future. The engine has been custom designed with a balanced equation of performance and reliability. We have 2 distribution centers in the U.S. to serve you well. Miami East in Mooresville, North Carolina, and Miami West in Temecula, California. The momentum is continuing to build, so it's time to make an investment in stabilizing your engine program. For more information, head to the website for your region, MiamiUSAEast.com or MiamiUSAWest.com. Miami, the heart of karting. In a sport where the difference between winning and losing is measured in hundredths of a second, you can't afford to leave anything on the table. You invest in the best equipment, the lightest components, and top-of-the-line data acquisition systems. Anything to find one more tenth, right? I'll tell you right now, the best investment you could ever make is in yourself. If you want to improve your results, it's time for professional instruction and coaching at the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy. Located at the new state-of-the-art Speed Sports Racing Park just north of Houston, the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy uses the very best equipment, Burrell Art Carts. They offer half-day, 1-day, 2-day, and 3-day clinics. They have a one-on-one student-to-instructor ratio, and they will design a customized curriculum for each student. Alan Rudolph is one of the most respected people in the sport, and he has nearly 20 years' experience training drivers, including Chase Elliott, Neil Albarico, Austin Versteeg, and Sabre Cook, and rising stars like Pietro Fittipaldi. Train with a champion with over 30 years of racing experience to get proven results. Start off your season with a driver tune-up. Tune up your season with some driver coaching. Or get ready for the big races by training with the best. Reserve your dates now by calling 866-607-RACE. That's 866-607-7223. For more information, visit speedsportsracingpark.com/racing-academy.
The Kart Republic has arrived in the USA and it's taking the world by storm. Kartsport North America is North America's exclusive importer and distributor for Dino Chiesa's Kart Republic chassis. Kart Republic has been racking up numerous national and international titles across all classes in its inaugural year of competition, including this year's CIK FIA World Championship. The team has arrive and drive seats and support spots available for the SKUSA Winter Series, USPKS, and WK Manufacturers Cup competitions, so call us today to reserve your own winning Kart Republic. Located in Mooresville, North Carolina, on-site at GoPro Motorplex, Kartsport also offers driver training and coaching programs, kart service and storage, and full retail sales with the top brands in the sport available in their 6,000 square foot retail space as well as their online store. Kartsport North America, top quality products, winning brands, and professional driver development services. Give us a call today at 855-527-8776 or visit us online at kartsportna.com.
Hello karting fans, this is AJ Myers and you're listening to the EKN Radio Network.
Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network, episode number 17 of the Industry Insider. We've got a veteran, Joe Janowski, here with us this weekend, the Superkarts USA National Director of Competition. Joe, we chatted about the Great Lakes Pro Kart Challenge, expanding that SKUSA regional reach out to another area, back to essentially the home base of Superkarts USA in the Midwest and the Great Lakes area. Let's talk more about 2019 now. You've been in the seat as the national director of competition for some time now. You guys played with the video marshaling system that SKUSA invested so heavily in. Let's start first with the Winter Series. We come out of the box, the second running of the Winter Series, and again, everybody getting a good feel. Launched last year, at Homestead. What are your thoughts on how do you perceive how things went this particular this first seat race of 2019? I know at the end you came to me and said, let's compare how that X30 senior race was last year compared to this year. I'm going to say it was heads and tails better. From your standpoint, from where you were quarterbacking the race direction, what were your thoughts?
Oh man, it was night and day.
Yeah.
Really was night and day, and it was really good to see. Because when you put as much work as this team does in on the backside, and I have the title of director of competition, which is different, by the way. Maybe at some point we can talk about the difference of what I do versus your more traditional race director. But all of the team that works tirelessly reviewing the calls that we made, how we made calls, what our protocols are, and how we do those things. The team has evolved over the last couple. And when I took it over, it'll be 2 years ago at the Winter Nationals. The difference between that race in terms of just overall how the team was functioning and working, and a couple weekends ago at Florida, you can't even say that it was the same team. That's how much growth has happened within the organization. And I really got to give I have to give thanks, by the way, real quick, to both Tom and Stan Bernarski. When we first started talking about doing some of this stuff, they both said, hey, we want some fresh eyes to look at this thing, and we're going to give you what you need. You tell us what you need, and we're going to do that. And those guys have absolutely delivered. And if I said, hey, I need this, I got it. If I need that, I got it. And I think the product ultimately, and what people could see, Saturday at there in Homestead was the first time that we have not had one protest for an on-track call. Now, that doesn't mean we didn't have a few guys come up that were a little bit out of shape, which you're going to get any race. But that was a real milestone for me, but mostly for my team, all those hardworking people that really take this seriously and really try and do the very best job they can. And I think that's beginning to see results. So the racecraft is a lot better. I think guys are starting to realize, hey, I can't get away with all the stuff that I used to get away with. My team has gotten better at executing, identifying things. We've gotten better at using the video system. So just a lot of those things have kind of gelled together to the team that we have now, and we're still improving.
Joe,
I'm kind of an always improver.
Let's talk about that. And you bring up a good point where you approach this a little bit differently. And David Cole and I see that from where we are occasionally when we're doing the play-by-play. We end up being with you guys in the same building or outside or wherever it may be. We get a chance to watch more closely what you guys do. You know what? Let's roll out with giving you let's give you the opportunity, the platform to talk about how SCUSA and yourself approach a race direction program, because indeed you're not a straight up race director. The way you handle your program, you divvy up and delegate more responsibility. Give you a chance to kind of give that an overview for anybody who wants to go racing Superkarts USA or already does and maybe doesn't have a full understanding. We can come back again and talk more about how you guys have leveraged the video marshaling system. I want to get more into depth on that. Yeah, you know what? You presented it. Tell us exactly how it is that you guys approach it. I think it's a great learning opportunity for those who go racing, or even for other other clubs or whatever, to see maybe a fresher take to it, because it is a little different.
Well, it had to be. We as drivers, we used to self-regulate, and by self-regulation, I mean, first off, from a safety perspective, we didn't have bodywork that surrounded the entire cart. So if you kept ramming the guy in front of you, eventually you're going to climb up over his rear and flip, or injure yourself or injure someone else. So we had a self-regulation on that. And then there was I don't know what the difference is, but we also it always felt like there was just more respect between drivers. I didn't want to knock you out of the way to get by you, but at some point, in the last X number of years, I don't even know when it happened exactly, but the drivers kind of took that and they handed it to the officials and said, well, you're going to regulate us now. And that's a very, very difficult thing to do. So you want to make sure that you remain consistent and allow people to race. You don't want to take racing away. But boy, the regulations that you have to start to put in. So trying to keep track of this big animal that is an officiating operation, is not easy to do. It's very similar to coming in and running a company with a lot of different divisions. You have people with a lot of different personalities. You have people with a lot of different skill sets. And so, everybody kind of has this mindset of, the typical karting race director, and it's some poor guy, with his hair on fire, and he's running everywhere, and nobody can make a decision. Nobody can do anything without that guy saying so, right? And it's just extraordinarily inefficient. So what I started doing is I didn't exactly set out to make it this way. What I did is I came into those first few events and I really just tried to see how the team worked and to see where the areas that we can improve. And one thing I noticed really quick was there's a lot that happens on a national event, both on the racetrack and off, and somebody needs to be in charge of all of those things. And so that's really where we started off. So, I went and visited race control with IMSA a few times and IndyCar a couple of times, and really tried to bring in some of their best practices. How do they do it? How do they manage all of the things that are going on? And so really, you probably noticed at the beginning last year, I began to actually have a full race control. Historically, you have scoring over in some building over there, and then you've got, your tech is way over there, and you've got your IT guy is floating around somewhere, and you have all these different assets, but nobody's in the same room at the same time. So that's what I did. I pulled basically all of my assets, and we all are in one room at one time. So my video is in there, my scoring is in there, our IT person is in there. I usually have a liaison between us and registration, a few other things. I've got quick access to my tech people, all of those things. So, in my course control. So when I've got a guy, currently it's Neil Strickland, who does we call him control. He's the guy that's actually calling yellow flags or red flags and making sure that go-karts are going around the racetrack. What I do is I move around between all of these different things and handle the issues. I'm a problem solver. So I'm dealing with a tech issue, or I'm over here dealing with a registration issue, or I'm over here dealing with a scoring issue. But consolidating all those resources, giving smart people, and by the way, all these people are much smarter than I am, but giving those people the ability to make those decisions and then backing them up and reviewing them and refining it for the next time, that's really been probably the biggest key to the evolution of our officiating system.
Interesting, because I spent a lot of time with an IndyCar race control myself, and that does sound exactly what it's like. Everybody's right there. They'll have, IndyCar has a couple of 3 different officials which are able to make judgment calls on penalties, usually ex-racers. They've got the race director, like you said. You've got guys watching the video. At Homestead, you had the guys from Racetrack Engineering, Dave Dusick and his man Tasker were there as well. So You've got a lot of people around you, and I guess key, I think, with that, and you obviously will agree with this, is that when you have that many people that you trust, really you have to let them do their job and leverage them as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, exactly. So calls on racetrack, like I don't call the penalties. The penalties, all penalties go through like a 2-step process before they're even called. So we've got great redundancy in that. In each unit that we have, we try and bring in the best people that we can, and then I let them do their job, and that's really allowed the entire team to begin to function much more as one unit. When I first came in, it was a lot of different units, but nobody really knew who the other people were in the SCUSA team, and there was a little bit of dysfunction going on there. So I kind of changed sort of the vibe of the team, so to speak, or our culture, I guess would be probably a better term. And it's like every morning, at 6:30, everybody's got to be there, and we have coffee and we have donuts and we cover any issues for the day. But a lot of that was just getting these people together and really seeing that, hey, we are one unit here, and all of us have to do all of our various parts. And it's never perfect, right? There's always breakdowns here, breakdowns there, but the team is it's so quick and easy for us to react to a situation now, as opposed to it was even a year ago, that, it's just been night and day, and it's been a lot of fun too.
Joe, let's take one more break, and we'll come back and dive a little deeper into the video marshaling system, because I think it's something that people, if they would understand a little more your process, I think that you'd see even less protests. You said you didn't have a lot, but even less discontent in terms of when rulings do come down from video. Folks, stay with us. We got one more little segment left here with Joe Janowski. We're now talking about the Superkarts USA Pro Tour and essentially how the national race direction team has evolved. And again, we're going to dive in to the video marshaling system, which is really being leveraged to its fullest here as we start the 2019 season.
I'm Chris Wheeler from Bell Racing USA, and I listen to the EKN Radio Network 24/7.
If you want to drive the best, drive a CRG. Our countless race wins and championships prove this fact, including taking the KZ Finals at the SCUSA Super Nationals and the CIK World Championships in both 2016 and 2017. Our material is second to none. After years of independent American importers, CRG is now managed directly by the factory and run out of our state-of-the-art headquarters in Texas. CRG Nord-Am is the American arm of the CRG factory in Italy, and we're serious about success. We stock a wide variety of parts in all of our chassis, from the CRG Hero for the mini categories, to the Heron for tag race, the Road Rebel for gearbox competition, and the new FS4, which has been designed specifically for American 4-cycle Briggs racing. If you're ready to step up to the national level, do it with a factory race team that competes across the USA. CRG Nord-Am is a full factory effort with the best personnel and the finest equipment. We're serious about winning, and you should be too.
Cometic Gasket is a leading worldwide supplier of gaskets and engine sealing solutions for karting, automotive performance, power sports, original equipment, and the remanufactured engine industries. Kinetic karting gaskets are available as OE replacement top-end kits or as individual gaskets and seals. Just like competitive karters, Kinetic can operate on the fly and has the unique capability to customize any gasket to meet specific engine requirements and clearances. All of Kinetic's fiber materials are asbestos-free and do not require any additional sealants. Viton oil ring cylinder head seals are used in each 2-cycle kit, and Kinetic's 4-cycle engine kits feature only the most advanced multi-layer steel head gaskets. Kinetic can tailor to engine builder-specific needs through bulk ordering and packaging flexibility. Kinetic gaskets are must-haves for championship-winning teams across multiple disciplines of both professional and amateur motorsports. Kinetic gasket, sealing championships since 1989. Karts, parts, engines, tires, and tools. At sharkshifter.com, what you need is just a click away. We carry the biggest names in chassis, like Tony Kart and FA, DR Kart, CRG, and VLR. We have new chassis and all the parts you need. At sharkshifter.com, we also stock top-quality replacement parts from Swift Components, like axles, sprockets, and hubs. We have the inventory you need for your stock Honda as well, from cylinders, heads, and engine parts to reeds, exhaust pipes, ignition covers, radiators, air filters, and air boxes. We build our own billet aluminum components as well, including motor mounts and clutch levers. Need to add to your toolbox? We offer alignment tools, brake, battery, and exhaust tools, tire gauges, and hand tools. Stop messing around getting your seat in the right position. We have a seat mounting system that makes it easy. Check the website for monthly specials. If you need it, we can get it to you fast. We ship the same day. Sharkshifter.com, your online source for karts and parts.
Hello, karting fans. This is Gabby Chavez, and you're locked into the EKN Radio Network.
Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network. Thank you so much for listening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rob Howden, episode number 17 of the Industry Insider, and talking to Superkarts USA National Director of Competition, Joe Janowski. Joe, before the break, you talked a little bit about the different approach that you've taken to the race direction of a weekend, the team, putting the right people in the right place and kind of standing back, quarterbacking everything, and letting them do their jobs. You know, one of the big things, of course, that SCUSA invested in hugely a couple years ago was the video marshaling system. Mm-hmm. As you were talking about you kind of getting into the program and, you know, Tom Kutcher and Stan Bernarski essentially getting whatever tools you needed to be able to do the job. One of the ones they handed to you at the very start was, oh, by the way, we just invested $75,000 in video. Here it is. We're not quite sure exactly how it's going to leverage, but we're on a pro tour. Because that first weekend at NOLA, 127 penalty video reviews a day. It was, right, you guys were handed this a powerful tool, and you really just had to go through the motions and the trials and tribulations of figuring it out, because it's a powerful tool.
You know, it really is a game changer. And, you know, I don't want to give away all the trade secrets on this thing, but, you know, I wouldn't go back to doing nationals without it. And you really can't at this point. But yeah, you know, that first race, I show up at New Orleans, and I've got my on-track team. And then we have this video system, and it's in a trailer, and, you know, and we're, you know, and I'm trying to figure out, you know, and I mean, I'm trying to figure out how to make this thing work. And I was getting a lot of pushback from a lot of different areas, like, well, why are we using this video system, and how do we use it, and what are we doing with it? And even by day, I'm talking from Friday to Saturday, we would change how we did. And then Saturday to Sunday, we would change how we did it. And then we had, I think we only had like 10 cameras, which we thought was enough, right? Well, then we find out, well, 10 cameras isn't enough. And, you know, we had the way that we had it constructed. It wasn't, you know, we didn't really know where to place the cameras. And so, you know, I look back now and I kind of shudder, you know, at how crazy it was. And I was like, boy, I remember the end of that weekend thinking, you know, well, if I can get this thing under control, boy, it's going to be awesome, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to live that long. Right. Yep. And so we ended up kind of taking like we go 2 steps forward and then 2 steps back and then 3 steps forward and a step back, and it would improve. And meantime, I'm working on all the other things too, plus the video and how to properly integrate it, and really, from a technical sense, Tom is, I know we talk about that initial number a lot, but and I can't stress it enough that how much Tom has supported this thing, even when the numbers are high, or he's looking at us like, "Are you kidding me?" I just spent, like recently, we finally convinced him that we really needed these tripods to mount the cameras on, and these are not inexpensive tripods, and these are really big, heavy-duty suckers that are. I think they're meant for some sort of like, movie set lighting or something like that, right? So they're really rigid and very industrial, and they're not cheap. And but he's like, "Man, if you guys say you need it, I'll make sure you have it." We're playing around with new cameras now, so a lot of it was really just learning how to set this thing up right, what the angles need to be, even the field of view of the cameras. How do we get the right field of view on cameras, and how do we get the cameras connected? How do we optimize our DVR system? But the way that we use it now is pretty cool. They're doing live marshaling via the video system while races are happening. So if they're not actively reviewing something, they are watching, and we have every corner, every straightaway are up on 2 big screens in race control. So, I'm usually in there and I'm kind of watching that stuff. And even if our view of the racetrack isn't great, Neil, our control, he's also watching us. We have a live view of everything going on. Typically speaking, though, a penalty is going to come in from the track. The nice thing with the video system being as good as it is now is our marshals don't have to identify everything about the incident. So when you go to a race that's not a SCUSA race, those poor people up there have to take in a very minute moment exactly what happened, what time it was, who was involved, who hit who did what, and then try and assess a penalty on it. The way that we do it is all they have to do is note an incident. They don't have to be clear about the incident. It's simply there was an incident, turn 4 at this time period, and it kicks over to our video system. So we have 3 guys monitoring video. These guys are all do video for IMSA or IndyCar or other forms of stuff too. And and they go back and they will look back 2 or 3 corners. They'll kind of watch the incident evolve. We can do slow motion. We can speed things up. We could do frame by frame, and they go about assessing the penalties. And so sometimes things come in and it looked like there was an incident, but it was nothing. But sometimes there is an incident. And so I think what's really funny too is as this kind of has evolved, I think a lot of the key players are really starting to see that what we are calling is pretty legitimate. I remember when we first started doing this. I remember Seth Nash, great guy, has a good team, and man, he was in there all the time. And it was a protest. I want to see the video. I want to see the video. And finally, I never saw him in there anymore. And I asked him at one of the races, I'm like, "Seth, I never see you in video anymore. With the protest." He's like, "I got tired of being shown I was wrong." It got to the point. Mike Speed was the same thing. I saw Mike in there a lot. I don't see Mike in there anymore. I don't see a lot of these guys in there anymore because, and I hope it's because they have begun to trust the system that all of us have created, and that's what I'm feeling like we're beginning to see them. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe they're just tired of coming in and having me shoot them down. But that's been a really, really interesting part to just see how these guys, after watching video time and time again, and finally trust in that process. And so that's been a big deal.
Well, there was one particular incident, and we won't bring it up what it was. We'll just talk about or who it was, or we'll just talk about what it was. When you're talking about a long straightaway at a racetrack, invariably you guys are going to have a camera pointing down that straightaway, and blocking is obviously a very big thing. And there was one particular thing. There was some chatter on Facebook about it, where one of the drivers moved to the inside, however slightly, moved to the inside to block down the straightaway at Homestead, coming down to turn 12, which is a fast 90-degree left-hander that leads to the checkered flag. And the driver then moved back out, moved back out to the racing line. That is straight up. Under SCUSA's rule set, that's a straight up illegal move. You can't take take the defensive position, which is you're allowed to take the defensive position,
Sure.
but you can't then come back outside. And the video is what picks that up so easily.
Just for the 7 people that might listen to this, those
Wow, putting down the EKN radio network.
No, I'm putting down Joe Janowski. You guys are fabulous. I'm not sure if you'll tune in and listen to me or not, but the reality of it is the blocking calls are the easiest calls to make.
Exactly.
We have cameras that are pointed straight down the straightaway. There are seams in the track. I mean, you can even the cameras are pretty high fidelity, and so. I say high fidelity, but all the IT guys are probably laughing at me right now. It's making myself sound old. Let's say high resolution or something like that.
High resolution.
But high fidelity, it's like a radio thing. But anyway,
exactly.
So we can tell who you are. We can tell how much you move down, and once you go to move back up to that racing line, it's so easy to catch. That those are kind of no-brainer calls at this point anymore. Yep.
So, okay, you've given some good insight into the video marshaling system, and that's really what I was hoping to do, to get some people to have a little bit of understanding. Number one, given the patience as well. When SCUSA invested in the marshaling system, even though I think everybody expected it to be dropped and, man, it's going to fix the racing and everything's going to happen, I think if we had more of a macro thought as opposed to micro, not thinking about the now, but thinking about how it's going to get better, because, Joe, you know where you are now. I would expect that you're going to tell me, Rob, we're just going to get better for 2019. It'll be better in 2020. We'll continue to make it better, right?
Well, I'm one of those type of people that I think it's probably my racing background, where I'm never really satisfied.
Yeah.
And so I think right now we're in a good place. And with that, I don't have these huge things to fix anymore. The first year and last year, there were these massive things that had to be fixed, and now we're into a point where, they're half that size or a third that size. The challenges I'm having are not what seem to be these insurmountable obstacles, right? But they're much tighter. They're much easier to do. But it's always going to be an improvement, and it's also going to be a reaction too, right? Because now we're going to enter into that. I've been going through the process of even refining the penalties. What do we call? How do we call it? Making sure that the marshals that we have, understand very clearly what these particular incidents are, making sure our video team understands exactly how, I want these things done and how we need to define those things moving forward. And it's only going to improve. I mean, I actually had a meeting yesterday with a big tech influencer here who's a friend of mine in Indianapolis. And we're talking about artificial intelligence and machine learning and applying it to our officiating programs. So, this is, man, it's not going to slow down. It's going to keep ratcheting up. I think the difficult part for me and my team is going to be to make sure that racecraft can still exist. And all we're doing is making sure that everybody has a very clear and concise box with which they have to operate in. And that's going to be the challenge is making sure that, we retain that racecraft, because 2 years ago it sucked, but now it's a lot better. And
I think, Joe, I think we bookend it with the fact that you started saying, when you talked about the way you wanted to direct a race, is that you still want to let the guys and girls out there race each other. And that's going to mean
Absolutely.
a bit of contact. It's not a non-contact sport.
No. Uh-uh.
You're going to rub a little. It happens. It just happens.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, folks. You know what? Let's wrap this thing up, Joe. We talked all about the Great Lakes Pro Kart Challenge, the kind of how the Winter Series has improved and the racecraft so much. We went into your kind of setup, which I think that was a really good bit for this particular podcast. Let's wrap things up. Pro Tour coming around the corner. We're just over a month and a bit away from the third running of the Winter Nationals. This time heading to Cal Speed. What are your thoughts on the 2019 Pro Tour? Are you excited from a race direction standpoint? Because it's a different experience on that side of the battle lines, right? And everybody going out racing or me calling the races or whatever it may be. You guys are always kind of, elbows up when you get into an event. Do you guys just feel like you're in a really good place moving forward?
Going into this season, we are so infinitely ahead of where we were at this time last year. And so I'm super excited. We have great depth in our marshaling team. We have great depth now in the in the video marshaling program. We've really been able to tighten up a lot of stuff. And so what I really think we're going to really be able to focus on this year, again, is going to be really giving people that there's that word that they all say to me all the time. We want it to be consistent.
Yeah.
And I think this year they're going to see a level of consistency. And I think, SCUSA is going to raise that bar pretty high.
Joe, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining me.
Awesome, man. It's always great to be here. Have you back anytime.
There he is, guys. Joe Janowski, the National Director of Competition for Superkarts USA. Really interesting insight into how he kind of reshaped the way Superkarts USA handles race direction, from timing and scoring to marshaling to corner working to whatever it may be. The video marshaling system, of course, so huge for what they've been able to do. And anybody who was at that first race that Joe came in, and they had the video marshaling system, you could hear it in his voice. It was a bit chaotic, but it was this amazing tool that over the last couple of years, they've been able to turn into something that really will help Superkarts USA move further forward as the primary national series in North American karting. Again, episode number 17 of the Industry Insider. Thanks to Joe Janowski for joining us here on the EKN Radio Network. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Rob Howden. Bye for now.